Something's a brewing for you. Something that has been put on the back burner is now about to start stinking up your whole house, and you're going to have no choice but to look at it because you have been quietly cooking something, right? It's been marinating. It's been absorbing all of this flavor. You've mastered the recipe, okay? But no one has tried your cooking yet. That's the metaphor I'm getting with this collective right now in this final week of Cancer season and the final week of the Mercury retrograde. There's a swell. There's this feeling of the water's about to break, okay? It's uncomfortable. We're in heat right now. It's feeling like emotions are supercharged. There's a lot that we could say, but maybe probably shouldn't say. And likewise, there's a lot that we should say that we aren't saying, that we're afraid to say, but that we definitely need to get off our chest. Most definitely. Okay, if you haven't gotten it off your chest by now, it's going to come out one way or another. Surprise. Because this Venus-Mars square that's been really defining July as well, right? It's not just Mercury retrograde. It's the fact that both divine masculine and divine feminine counterparts, planets, are being ruled by Mercury going retrograde in the sign of Cancer. What does that mean? Relationships between men and women, or romantic relationships in general. You know, I'm not going to just say it has to be hetero because it's Mars and Venus. It can obviously be symbolic. But love relationships, romantic relationships, there's a little friction right now. Now, it can be easy to take this friction as a sign to cool off and as a sign of trouble. And it very well can be that. And sometimes that is the appropriate course of action. However, there are some people right now that are going through this friction that's actually starting the spark of a fire that is going to burn for a very long time. Okay, so it's important to almost lean into the spark, lean into the friction a little bit. And I feel like that feels uncomfortable because it's almost like sanding something down. Like you have to go layer by layer, and it stings and it's vulnerable. And there's certain things that are seen that you don't want to be seen, whether it's by yourself or by someone else. But this is the journey that we're on. At the beginning of the retrograde, I mentioned that we are spelunking through the caverns. It really feels like we're in underground caves right now. And maybe we're learning some secrets, okay? Maybe we're learning some tidbits of information that was not meant for our ears to hear, okay? Maybe we are, and even on a collective level, right? I think about all the truths that have been coming out with these eclipse cycles, and something about this Mercury retrograde in Cancer, it's posing a question of, so now what? How much further do we need to scrape into the belly of the beast of evil for us to know that this is not the way, that this is not the path of enlightenment, right? The way that this matrix in society has been run is not the way, people. And that's what I believe Jesus was here to do, was to shine that light very clearly, even when it was so normalized. These hierarchies of oppression and controlling people and manipulating people's minds. Do you know how evil that is? Do you know how much people have to want to play God to do that? And so that's why I just want us to remember the purity that this Mercury retrograde has been showing us, the pure way, the original way. It has to do with tradition, but not in like a toxic way, like tradition in accordance with the natural laws of the planet herself, right? The principles of the universe, God's law and decree for our lives, right? The original way, the source, the origin. This is what Cancer energy wants our attention on. And we find ourselves thinking about these things a lot, but maybe we're not connecting some key pieces, right? And that's where this friction comes in, because it's not just about romantic relationships. This square is also about money and career. I think about Venus as the money, Mars as the career, right? Because the Venus is like what you're bringing in, what opportunities you're attracting, how you're connecting with people. If you're looking for a job, how you're interviewing, how you're, those connections really determine the money that you're earning. Money is an energy system. Venus has to do with that. And Venus is in Virgo. So of course she's going to talk about finances as well as health, as well as routine. It all connects. Venus in Virgo shows us everything connects, even when we don't want it to connect. And then we have Mars in Gemini, which can be very inconsistent. And we might see that energy in the masculine part of ourselves, whether we're male or female, where it's like we say this, but we don't fully do it or go after it. So there's a little bit of talking out of two sides of your mouth that I think that Venus in Virgo is a little bit of a whistleblower on. But really, the true whistleblower would be Mercury that's now backing into the square with Saturn. So we have two cardinal signs going at it, and we have two mutable signs going at it. So right now, I really feel like it's a Kickstarter energy as well as a tying up loose ends kind of energy. Venus in Virgo is saying, let's go, recycle that, sell that, get rid of that, especially with the South Node and their interaction right before the South Node goes into Leo. It's like a cleaning house energy that we talked about, right? And I think we're seeing that it's hard to fully get that going and get that process underway when we got 1 foot here and 1 foot there. We say we're going to do this, but our behavior's different. And so we don't reach our goals with ease. But at the same time, we see that we have to wear multiple hats. So it's like, how can we juggle without juggling? Which is the impossible, right? But there's something about that though. Like, how can we juggle without like making it look easy, I think is what I was trying to say. This is a time where the Mercury retrograde is ending in a week, but it's lingering for, I would say, about a month. Like, I feel like this Mercury retrograde energy has a linger effect to it. And I think that really comes from Saturn, right? Because we're ending this retrograde with this feeling of duty and obligation and what we have to do. Like, I think we've gained a lot of insights about like what truly we really want out of this life and who we really are and how that's expressed. Like, that's the Cancerian part of our journeys we've been on, right? And so Saturn is now kind of like, okay, so what are you going to do to be that person? Are you going to keep making the same excuses, or are you going to take your life back into your own hands? Are you going to take the reins of this whole thing and make it yours, right? That's Saturn in Aries. It's like, F the system, F the support. Like, you're going to, if people are not going to support you on this journey, you're going to do it yourself, right? Like, you're doing this regardless of whether or not you're getting applauded. And that's where it can get difficult, because at the same time, we do want to be likable, especially with Jupiter now in Leo. There's this cultural shift toward wanting to, like, seeing the good side of attention and being applauded and recognized and being popular and knowing people. And how that can be a real asset in our lives. And it doesn't have to be in this like toxic bullying way of being popular, right? But there's just certain things right now that I think we're still at a bit of a learning curve with, and that's totally okay. And the more that I'm embracing that beginner's mind, the more that I feel like Saturn and Aries stuff just kind of seems to make sense. It's like, okay, at the end of the day, like, the whole system is collapsing and the whole matrix is kind of cracking right now. So we're all in the same boat. Like, in 5 years, we're all going to need to have a personal brand. So start, get on it. Like, it doesn't have to be an influencer kind of thing. Like, it can be in your own way. You can use the tools that you want to use, but start building. Like, pick your fighter, choose your weapon, pick your outfit, put that avatar together, and let's go. It doesn't matter if your resume doesn't line up with this. It doesn't matter if you still need X, Y, and Z. You need to start now. You needed to start yesterday, but this Mercury retrograde kind of took some of that momentum away, right? And that's okay. Maybe we needed to slow down a little bit, because otherwise we would have spun out. I really feel like that this Mercury retrograde, as much as some people felt like it's been really just like oozy and soupy and annoying and slow and a lagger. Yes, it has been that, but it's also been a gift of just time out for a second. let's really think about what's going on here. That's been the vibe. That has been the essence. And it's especially the essence when Mercury is ruling both Venus and Mars in mercurial signs. It's like this ability to connect dots and understand the reason, the why, the whole past history, psychic information, intuitive knowledge about things without even really prying. It's just coming to us. It's coming to us. And I feel like the ability to channel things, to create things, to express love is so strong right now. And that's why you're seeing some of this hesitation energy. And that's part of why there feels like there's friction, right? But the real friction is actually the cooling and saying, oh, like this feels like a big deal. So I'm gonna laissez-faire this bitch and just put my hands up. Like, that's sometimes how Mars and Gemini can behave, like a deer caught in the headlights. It's like, do I go here or do I go there? But if you spend too much time thinking, what happens? You get run over. So you have to just kind of like have this intuitive like instinct right now of like, this feels right. Yes, let's go. Like, I'm getting this energy of having to make snap decisions, being in a creative field, like being on set, being a director, like, yes, that works. No, that doesn't. Like, there's so many decisions that a director has to make in a day that they can't spend time too long on any one decision, right? They have to always keep it moving. And that's kind of the energy that I feel like we're stepping into more so than that we've been in. I feel like this is an energy that's recently become more apparent, especially as Mercury has had more of that conversation with Saturn. Now that we've passed the Cazimi point, there's that feeling of like, it's crunch time. You know, maybe you're still waking up. Maybe there's still some things that have to get figured out for X, Y, and Z to work. But when it comes to this, let's go, right? Saturn is really prodding us along. It's like, okay, you want to be an entrepreneur. You want to be a visionary. You want to be a trailblazer. Whoop-de-doo. Congratulations. I'm going to kick your ass, right? Like, Saturn in Aries is that personal trainer that's like Jillian Michaels. It's just screaming in your face and red in the face, and that seems to never get tired, and that will literally be a bully, like will literally bully you. So that's how you might feel with the energy right now, that you're being almost like not bullied by any one person in particular. And I say that bully energy almost with like endearment, like not literally, but in the sense that you're getting that tough love that you need to get it together. Venus in Virgo, one thing about her, she's going to make sure she has the receipts and that the details and everything are all color coordinated and organized. Okay. Ever since Venus has gone into Virgo, I've been thinking about cleanliness in a new way. I've been understanding it as not a system of oppression and rigidity, but something that helps you to maintain a flow in your life and the systems of your life, right? That basically all contribute to the bigger picture, but really breaking every single little thing down. Venus in Virgo is good for that. Sometimes you can get stuck in the weeds, so you got to be careful. But yeah, it's definitely a time in which this energy will push you to get organized and to get your baseline together. And if you try to add more before you do that, it will force you to go back to the beginning. So it's really like a step-by-step energy. What I'm channeling right now is like one of those games where like almost like a solitaire game, right? Where you eventually can like run out of moves in the game if you play it too fast or without thinking about the other cards on the table and like kind of like the puzzle that you're solving. It could be like any puzzle game, really. And it just feels like there's this delicate dance where you have to kind of always be thinking ahead, but not in a way where you're like attaching to any outcome, but you're just thinking about what the most likely thing is in a sense, but also the most unlikely, because you're also basing it off of a dream, but it's not actually unlikely. Okay, I know that was crazy. That was like all over the place, but that's kind of the energy and how it's been rising in this retrograde, because it's really deep and it's not basic. It's not surface level. It's not just like, okay, like a run-of-the-mill retrograde, my car broke down, oh, my computer broke down, oh, like, it's like, no, like, if there's a breakdown in communication, or if there's a breakdown in transportation or any mercurial thing like that, it's a real problem. Like, it's not just a real problem. It might not even end up being that big of a problem itself, but it's pointing to a deeper issue here that's always been there under the surface, and this undercurrent geyser caldera kind of energy. My grandmother's lineage is from Furnish in São Miguel, Açores, and you cook food in the ground there because it's constantly boiling, and the food absorbs all these minerals, and it cooks very slowly, and it becomes one with the earth in a sense. And then you take it out and you eat it and you become one with the earth. And it's this beautiful alchemy thing that goes down. And you have to understand though, like when you're there, it's very hot. You have to be careful. You feel like your whole body and your blood is boiling. And it's a very like visceral experience in a sense, but it's also like the result is very pleasurable, and it's very satisfying. And I feel like that's kind of the process that we're in right now, where we might be foregoing certain things. I think of that especially with Venus and Virgo, like trying to keep a tighter belt when it comes to money, or cutting back on certain things, having an excess of things, like can't stay right now. Like if you try to hold on to all these different things, or you're unwilling to change your habits with certain things, like it's just gonna keep annoying you, you know? And I just feel like the lighter you can make the load while also keeping things functional, the better. Things need to function, right? Like don't get rid of everything to the point where it's like, where did my life go? Like foundation, roots, they really do matter. Mercury in Cancer. Still in Cancer season, by the way. Still got a week left. And then we can really start getting into the show-off season of Leo. But yeah, if things have been a little bit slower for you at this time, or you feel like you've kind of taken a back seat with some things, or like, again, it's like a back burner energy, like, it's okay, right? Like productivity culture, the Matrix is not going to hold your hand and tell you that, but I will tell you that it's okay. It's okay that you slowed down a little bit this month. It's okay if you struggled with some things emotionally. It's okay if you didn't feel like you could be all there with your everyday life because something else pretty big was going on for you that you were thinking about, right? And I think something that this retrograde is teaching us is how to deal with those, you know, deeper tides of life that can roll in, and it can bring sadness. It can also bring joy. Like these big events that happen, right? Like a death or a birth. I think about these things, and, you know, there's always a part of these personal things that are going to bleed over into our professional life and, you know, our public image and what we're doing in our public life, right? They're always going to be connected, of course. But when we are just out in the world, we are always able to return to this place of inner knowing. And so even when we don't understand why life could be so unfair to us, or we could even feel like unfair in a good way, like I'm lucky and I don't know how I deserve this when there's so many people suffering, like it can go either way. Whatever's going on in those tides of life, whether you're on a high or a low, you always have that person. You always have that inner soul, that inner being. It's like, it's deeper than just your name or like the things that are on your resume. Yes, it has to do with your family, but it's even apart from that in a way. But I think going through the bloodline and understanding your family can actually really help at the same time. Understand who you are for sure, and like the ancestry and all that. But even still, there's a reason that you have differentiated on your family tree and you have your own branch. And so now it's like you have closing out this retrograde, like coming off of this new moon in Cancer, I think I'm just really aware of the responsibility that requires, right? Like I think about all the hard work that my parents put into raising us, and even just like how teachers raise a generation of students, and how collectively as a society we raise people. And we see the perils of that in how modern day culture has evolved. But I'm also reminded again of this primordial, primal, original way of doing things. This protective instinct, this instinct to nurture things, to make them grow. And that brings me to another point, which was this dichotomy between green growth, like the color green, and its like infinite potential to just keep expanding and growing, and this kind of like sticky, like brown, like goopy, like almost like if you took all the colors on a palette and just mixed them all together, like that kind of like brown color you get, where it's very like undifferentiated, and it's like tar, and it's like, I don't know, it's just like this energy that feels like plant disease that would stop the growth. And I'm feeling like and this is an energy that I also heard another reader speaking on who helped me articulate this idea. So I do want to give her credit. Her name is Danielle, I believe, and her channel is called Harmonious Hearts. And if you're into like twin flame, divine feminine, masculine readings, and she does it in a way though where like it's like I feel like she's really profound, and like she's really tapped in a way that she's not just like reading the superficial stuff. So anyways, take a look at that if it resonates, especially right now with the Venus Mars square. It might be helpful for some people. But this sticky tar energy is really difficult to deal with, and you do have to put labor into scraping it off and resisting it. But it's kind of a situation where you realize that the more you let it accumulate, the worse it is to clean. So that's why I think this cleanliness thing has been relevant literally, but also metaphorically with Venus and Virgo. It's like if you keep things in a place of homeostasis and you tend to the small things regularly, you increase the momentum. And when you don't do those things and you let things slide and you let things go, it's like this tar kind of accumulates, and it just like poisons the crop that you're trying so hard to grow. And it sometimes doesn't matter how much fertilizer and water and effort and love you put into it. If it's infected, it's infected. And so there's something about this, really all of the Mercury retrogrades of 2026, I would say, and even the final one we had of 2025, being in water signs, these Mercury retrogrades have been about cleansing. They've been about purifying. They've been about taking your mind and understanding how your mind directly connects to your emotional experience, and how you need to regulate that, and how you need to like just let that shit go. Let it slide off of you. Let it be there and take on a form and acknowledge it, but let it also evolve and shift and become, I feel like for the collective right now, we're becoming like a shapeshifter energy. Like, not in a way that's like dodgy or shady, but just in a sense of like, we're being given permission now to exist in many forms. Okay. So it's like, I think about this in my career as a singer. I can shapeshift into this like persona on stage and this entertainer kind of vessel. And then I can shapeshift into this kind of like vessel of like being like a creature in nature, and just like not even thinking about the matrix and the real world and like what's going on and like all the stuff up here, like just like being. And then I can shapeshift into someone who is just like super present with people and curious and wanting to know their stories and their lives and wanting to share mine. And like, I don't know, like there's all these different layers to me. And I don't even want to say there's these different sides to me, because I don't play these different sides. It's like a natural thing of just like sometimes I'm more in this kind of element and others I'm more in this. And I feel like this does connect to the element of water and how these Mercury retrogrades in the water elements, the water signs, how they are like showing us this ability to be fluid. And I think this is helping us to activate our inner lover, because we're falling in love with life from so many angles, whereas before it felt like we could only be happy or falling in love with our life if we got what we wanted. Does that make sense? This message, I knew it was going to be a little all over the place, because that's how the Mercury retrograde messages tend to come out, and especially with this retrograde and how it's been. But I think Saturn is giving us a little bit of discipline now, a little bit of structure. I feel like that's starting to shift. I can feel like the relief of the end of the retrograde is here, but it's not a fully like relaxed moment. It's like an active rest, right? Because we also have to remember that Saturn is stationing retrograde at this time. We're about to station retrograde in like the next week when Mercury stations. So they're both moving real slowly. So I feel like even with this discipline and structure, it's not time to like kick into full gear yet. Like, get the momentum going, get the pot simmering. I love you guys so much. This is kind of like the come down of the new moon in Cancer energy. I feel like this new moon was very like mysterious. I didn't like it. It just feels like it's part of such a bigger story going on. But I definitely felt the mercurial energy of this new moon, and I think it came out in this episode. And I think the next time we'll probably just continue to talk about the retrograde wrapping up, and maybe we'll talk more about Saturn and his retrograde in Aries, but there's no shortage of things for us to talk about, that's for sure. And I think we're going to be coming up for air after this Mercury retrograde. It does feel like emotionally we've been submerged in a lot. So I think it's going to feel good to maybe finally be able to talk about some things, or clear the air, or just like at least mentally have some sort of clarity moment or epiphany of like, oh, okay, I actually don't have to hold on to that. I can have an 8 of Cups moment and kind of just leave that in the past and not be that person anymore, and like talk about it without feeling all like tense, There's a lot of healing with that happening. So I'm looking forward to this journey unfolding for us, and right into the eye of the eclipse. It should be an interesting way to progress through the summer. I don't want to say end the summer, because I can't think about summer ending just yet as a New England girly. It always brings a lot of saudade that time of year, but I'm starting to get ahead of myself, which means I need to say goodbye. See you next time.